So I wanna get a feel for the audience. So raise your hands if you want to make a game in a few months and then put it on Steam and make a couple of $1 million. Okay, we have just a couple. Maybe we need to cancel this talk. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so with me we have Marko from Triternion and Nino from Foxy Voxel. So Marko, you probably know or have heard of their famous game Mordhau. Nino actually is a local here. He just moved from Serbia, where Foxy Voxel is the company is, the rest of the company. He moved to Ljubljana, so you can run into him on the street here in the center of town. And we'll first take a look at his game called Going Medieval, which was released last year. You can narrate or you can give us more info while we look at the trailer, okay? So tell us about the game.
Yeah, sure. Hello everyone. So,
Jack less.
Okay, so Going Medieval is a city builder colony sim / with deeply simulated settlers or agents, how we call them in-game. And actually it's a twist on games like War Fortress and Rimworld, but set in 3D setting with one kind of difference, because it's 3D, the building part is important part of the game. And this is something I might talk about later. The building part was kind of there from the beginning, from the first idea, but during testing and during development, we kind of figured out that this is what sets game apart from the competitors, and we kind of pivoted towards this building stuff. So yeah.
And when did you start to work on this game, and what's the team? The team size, what happened?
So we started working on this game in fall 2018. The team size, we started with 6 people, now we are 8. And we put Steam page on really early into development. It was like spring 2019, like 6 months into development we already. We had nothing, we had no game at that point, but it's smart to put Steam page early and kind of test the audience and if there is interest into it. Then we were planning doing like early access release. From the beginning it was planned to be early access game. So we planned to do it around 2020, but it didn't work well, and we decided to prolong this period for 6 months, so we released in 2021 June into early access.
Okay, thanks. So like I said, most of you probably know Mordhau, so here's their trailer. But basically, in a nutshell, in Nino's game you build the buildings, and then in Marko's game you tear them apart and kill everybody around it, basically. So Marko, for anyone who's not familiar, a quick rundown on the history and status of this game.
Yeah, so it took us about 3.5 years of production, but that started around 2016, and we got on Steam in sort of April 2019. That's when we launched. It's been, so the team working on this was like 8 people. And in the start it was just, very start it was just one. So yeah, we kept chugging along. We initially did a Kickstarter in 2017, where we got some money to continue development, but otherwise we're unfunded. And then from there, we basically just did a few tests with our testers. From Kickstarter, you get these backers, they want to play the game early. And we did a bunch of that. Took us like 2 years of doing that. And then we launched on Steam, and obviously it's done very well. And yeah, that's the short story.
Okay, cool. So instead of running a fireplace animation in the background, I did what I saw on this app called TikTok, where you have just short chunks of fast-forwarded game footage changing every 15 seconds. So that's our fireplace now, and now we head on to the tough questions. So what happens when you drop the game on Steam? But in both of your cases, it was quite successful. Can you tell us? So what can you tell us about the numbers when you drop a game on Steam? What's a good number? What's a good number of sales that you can do? What happens basically when you release the game?
It's really depends on the game, I guess. I mean, for us, it was obviously, it took off like crazy, and they're not numbers that you would usually expect, but we had a very high bump at the start. So in like 1 week, we moved 500,000 units, and that comes about say 10 or so million, and it just kind of keeps going from there, but then it obviously tapers off and goes down. But yeah, for us, that was really the Twitch and all the streamers taking it up. So it wasn't us doing it; we just pressed the button, which was actually very.
And how do you get the streamers to generate buzz?
They like it. You can definitely share keys and stuff like this, and that's very good to do. But in general, if they like it, they like it. You can't really influence that all that much. You can get the game out to them, kind of try to show it off, and we've been doing that before. I mean, what helped us a lot was when we were doing the testing, right? So we would have Lyric play the game, or we would have Summit play the game, and they would stream it before it even launched. And so people kind of knew, and they knew that they were going to play. And then when we launched, they play it, and they all played it. And one streamer plays, they all want to play it. And that's how it kind of went from there.
And in your case, Nino?
It was similar, but in our case, it was a bit more structured and planned towards launch. Because, it's only because we had a publisher with experience, so they kind of orchestrated early campaigns and actually hold us off for 3 or 4 months since the game was ready from releasing it. And probably if we were alone without a publisher, self-published, we would release way sooner and most likely had like lower numbers. So yeah, we released the game. I think we had 230,000 wish lists at the time, and we sold 175,000 in the first week. Yeah. So, and it was also good timing, which is important, where there was no other big titles coming up onto Steam for a couple of weeks. It was June 1st. And I remember we were moving our launch according to Biomutant, which for us didn't make any sense because we are not competing with Biomutant. This magazine has nothing in common. It's a completely different audience, but it helped a lot in a way that around our launch there weren't big titles coming up, so we managed to maintain on the #1 selling spot on Steam for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and that kind of snowballed Steam's algorithm for boosting the visibility of the game, and of course lifted up the sales. But also prior what Marko said, the Steamers and content creators helped a lot. For bigger ones, we were trying to reach out, but they didn't just answer, and they just, when everybody else started playing the game and showcasing, they just picked it up. So we had Raptor and Spoofing Bricks and many like high-profile YouTubers playing the game, and that helped a lot.
So the publisher, although structured and so on, but you're mentioning the same activities as Marko, who didn't work with a publisher. So it's basically the same tool set that's being used by both ways.
Yeah, the publisher worked with a company which kind of has their own streamer roster, but it's kind of lower profile streamers. We had like separate Discord channel for them. They had builds early, and they are still getting builds, like new update builds earlier than the public, so they can prepare the content at the time when the update is launched. I cannot tell this is very helpful now, like 2 years into early access, but at the beginning we had like many smaller streamers playing the game, and I believe it's just a guess, but I believe that helped gain visibility in this, like among the other streamers, and it came to attention to a bigger one.
None of you mentioned any review sites, so that's dead. No one reads that anymore. Game review sites.
Well, they do have a small effect, but most of them have like zero effect. So I mean, from what we saw, when you look at someone, you know, there's a big streamer playing it, there's a huge effect. But when there's, you know, when say, I don't know, Rock Paper Shotgun publishes a review, nothing. PC Gamer publishes a review, nothing. But there is one thing that's very useful for the reviews. So if you make a trailer of the game, right, they like to repost the trailer. If you can get them to repost your trailer, you will get a ton of views. So that's really useful because then it promotes your video, you know, in general, YouTube, and it picks up. But that's about the extent.
Yeah, well, I would like just to add that we were trying really hard to get reviewed by Rock Paper Shotgun, Polygon, and PC Gamer, and those like really big outlets. Only bigger outlet, which is not worldwide popular, but is German one, and they did review. And this kind of games are crazy popular in Germany, so this is, I guess, where they found their angle. But yeah, and they just didn't publish anything prior to launch. But then, after we were like hanging on the first place on Steam for 2 weeks, they started picking up and they wrote articles. And it's kind of difficult to gauge. I guess it brought to the like overall noise and brought game to like more people. At the end, it's early access game, and they don't like to write about early access games unless they are like gain some traction already.
And so it's a coincidence, I guess, that both of your themes are medieval, or is this something that's popular these last years, or how come you both ended up in the medieval sphere?
I mean, for us, it was not really to do with the medieval aspect, but the combat. That was really the only reason. And the only other option would be something like sci-fi, which wouldn't really sell well. But I don't know if there's any specific plan. I think it's just coincidence.
Well, our game came, the idea for the game came from, okay, let's do something big as a Dwarf Fortress and Rimworld, but in 3D. And then everything after that, like setting, theme, medieval theme, and everything else, came from kind of research, market research, and trying to find a gap where we could put the game in. And at the time, we knew that all like popular Steam medieval themed games came out quite old, games like Banished, and there was kind of gap of a couple of years, no new game coming into this genre, and this is why we thought, okay, of course, sci-fi, maybe those are like themes, but since Rimworld was already sci-fi-ish, and Dwarf Fortress was like fantasy medieval, then we thought, okay, let's try to put it in the kind of realistic alternate history setting, but without fantasy, without sci-fi.
Okay. Marko, we met at some event last year, and I think you said just do any multiplayer survival game and people are just gonna eat it up. Is that a fact? Was it a fact then? Or what's hot right now?
It still seems to be a fact. It's a love-hate relationship that players have with these games because they buy them and then they review them very well and then that's it. But they all seem to do very well. I don't know why. People in general have a sort of fear of multiplayer. That's a big thing that indie developers don't attempt, which is a shame because that's really what you want to look at are kind of genres and categories of games where there's not many people making them. So if you realize that everyone's saying, oh, I don't want to do multiplayer, that's difficult, that's too bad, someone else is going to do it.
Cool. So, you mentioned reviews just now. Are reviews reflective of the quality of the game? Can you game the reviews? Are they really important or not so important once you get streamers or once people know about your game? How important are the reviews on Steam?
Well, it really depends, I guess. In terms of how important are they for your sales? Not very.
No.
Most of the best-selling stuff is poorly reviewed. But the other thing is, they're not reviews, They are, you're basically asking a player, do you like this or not? They might play this game for thousands of hours, they will leave you a negative review because they're pissed at the game for some reason. Or if it's a PvP game, they will have low reviews. That's a fact. If you're making like a co-op game, they're very rarely poorly reviewed. They usually have a much higher score. So those things all play into it. It's not really reviews.
Yeah, basically, there are many games in Steam with overwhelming review score with very few sales also, and there are also crazy popular games with mixed or 50% reviews that are still doing well. So basically, it heavily depends on game you are making, and reviews on such platforms. Steam is basically a social platform for everything, and players are communicating this game with each other, and they will review either if they are extremely happy and want to share this happiness with the game, or if they are pissed and want to warn the others about the flaws or something that misses them. And also, my experience from the reviews from our game is that for early access game, players tend to be more soft and don't get too hard on you, because as long as you have clear promise what the game will be when it's finished, after 1.0 full release, and if you're getting them what they thought they are getting, because many games get review bombed just because they made a trailer that looks like something that the game really isn't. Not intentionally, but it's very important to communicate this very, very clearly to players what game is and what they're getting.
Okay. I come from the mobile space, and Apple and Google have made some changes in privacy that affect the entire industry. So the GDC feedback, they're saying mobile has to go cross-platform. and people just want to experience the same game across platforms. How does that? What's your perspective on this from a PC only game? Are you seeing this on the market? Are you thinking about this? Not considering at all?
I think like I've seen a lot more games that go from PC sort of to mobile and do well, like Fortnite, Call of Duty, even though that's a separate sport altogether. But it's very rare to see mobile games come to PC and do well because it's not the same kind of audience. I have no idea. It's also really hard to compete, and I don't think you can buy users as easily as on mobile. So yeah, I have no idea. I don't play mobile games, so I don't know. Maybe Nino knows.
I kind of, before doing this, I was also on mobile in other companies, so yeah, it is difficult. There are a couple of examples, for example, coming from mobile to PC, but those are, I think, outliers, and I wouldn't bet on making my business model out of that. For example, Among Us, it was like it was doing kind of okayish, but they were like this close to shutting down the whole operation. They had no enough players and stuff, and then exploded in a PC. Among Us. Another recent example is Vampire Survivors, which is also made for mobile and ported to PC, and it looks like streaming mobile with all the menus and everything done. But it exploded on PC, and now it's free on mobile, whatnot. But yeah, so there are a couple of examples. Of course, there are like opposite examples, but that's for, I think, big hitters. I guess it works well if they deal Apple deal and they get some cash upfront. For example, I don't know, Stardew Valley did well, I guess, on mobile, and that sells. I guess they also may exploit on mobile. But for smaller games like spreading out multi-platform, I would say just it's not worth of like spreading too early and counting on like crossplay.
Okay. So Marko, you never worked with a publisher, and you did great on your own, and you're still doing great. Nino, you worked with a publisher. So with the next game, what would your strategy be? Still with a publisher? Would you go solo? And to both of you, would you or will you expand to other stores and console maybe?
Yeah. So for going medieval, we had to go with publisher because not really with publisher, but we tried to find investor, and it happened that this investor was also offering a publishing deal to us, and
with the funding, right?
Yeah, and they funded just game, not investment in the company, and it worked pretty fine for us. We are happy with our publisher. They are pretty hands-off. We are having good communication with them, and also they brought something, as I mentioned, this release date and all home marketing. We knew what we are supposed to do, but in our company also, both myself and the other co-owner, we are both hands-on in development. Nobody is just managing the company because we're a small team, and this is the kind of idea going indie to do the actual game development and get down and dirty and not only managing people. So yeah, they helped us a lot with QA, with marketing, so it depends what you want to do, what you know to do, what you're capable of. For next game, I don't know. We will see what next game will be, and then after that we will be deciding what's the budget. Do we have that budget by ourselves? Do we need help? I don't know, but kind of both things are still in the air, and we could go both ways.
Yeah, from our side, we would not go with a publisher probably ever if we can fund the game. So we're not doing it, not for the next title that we're working on, and not for Mordhau for consoles either. We are going to ship the consoles probably within like 3 months. We're at the end of the certification of some of them. So we're going to do that on the previous generation and current generation, both Xbox and PlayStation. And that will kind of give us also the in-house knowledge how to deploy this in multiple stores and platforms in the future. But we don't have plans to really use a publisher. I don't think outside of, if you need funds for it, I get it. You can also get an investor or something like that. But outside of that, I just don't see it being worthwhile. The stuff that they bring to the table is, you can probably do it at fairly good, kind of almost at that level internally, if you just focus on it a little bit more. So from our end, we're not thinking of changing this strategy.
And you're on Steam, but not on Epic Games or GOG or some other really expanded.
No, very, 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 very soon we will be in the Epic stores.
Okay. Cool.
It's not been announced.
So don't tell anyone. All right, guys. You have any questions for them, or do I have to keep on going?
Hello. First of all, sped up Mordhau was hilarious, and now I'm afraid of speed hackers. I have a question regarding wish lists. Are they really that important, and what is the main metric and how it converts to downloads and sale afterwards? Because I get this feeling that most of this information are not fake but artificial. Because I see a lot of indie developers asking for wish list. Please add to our wish list. And is this actually something that helps, or is it just smoke screen? Thank you.
Yeah, it helps a lot. Our whole pre-early access release was marketing was kind of like that. So the Twitter and all social accounts should funnel to the Steam page and ask people to wish list. Why they are important? There are a couple of methods where you can eyeball or make an educated guess of how much wish list you should have and how much they able to translate into sales in the first month, first year, and so on. There are online methods. You can calculate that from educated guess. But most importantly, for wish lists is, as I said, for example, we had pretty high conversion rate because we had 230,000 wish lists and it transferred to 175,000 in the first month. So it's very, very good conversion. But what I didn't say that after release, like after game was released, in this first month, we got more like new wish lists, like 600,000 or 700,000 wish lists. We are hanging on about around 1 million wish lists that are not still used. Steam calls them outstanding wish lists. So we are all the time, like for 2 years, around million. And why they are important is that first of all, when you release game, Steam sends email to all those who wish listed. They send an email, game new wish list is now on sale. And you get a lot of external traffic which Steam's algorithm likes and pushes you up. And so this is why it's important. Some kind of general rule of thumb some developers use is like don't release game until you have at least 10,000 wish lists. There is no magic number that makes it depends on game budget and how much you spend and what you're expecting and so on and so on. But basically for my next game, for our next game, we would certainly use the wish list as a gauge. Because if you cannot get people to wish list your game, you cannot really expect it will make any commercial success after you release it. So you need to make the people interested in your Steam page and trailer and get them to wish list to gauge if there is a market for it.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe a quick comment from my side. We actually fucked up. You could not wish list Mordhau until way, slightly before release. And well, I mean, it still went okay. Obviously, the predictions for what we should have sold were, way lower than they were actually. But yeah, that's one thing. I mean, we will definitely try to get on that earlier now. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing this. So I have a question and formulate it differently, or actually just to be more specific. For you, Nino, I'm interested in how you got to that 200,000 wish list. So what was your plan, how you got it? And Marko, for you, I'm interested in how you went about user acquisition. So yeah, that's it.
For us, user acquisition was mostly the first step was create even before we released the game, we would do videos, dev blogs. We would talk about the game, show snippets of it, little short clips. But the main thing to drive actual acquisition is to then give them a place where they can discuss. Now back then this was Reddit or forums. Now it's like Discord and stuff like this. So it's crucial that they have somewhere to go after they see your video. You're just going to forget about it. If you point them to here you can go, you can discuss with the players. That's critical.
Yeah, Discord is really important as well. For us, the game started, it had really big, for Steam terms, wishes velocity from the first trailer. There was no game at this point. We were just working on the ideas. And one of the developers put some effort and fake the trailer, fake the gameplay what was supposed to be, and just randomly scene and doing animations. And we started really good, having good traction on wishlist. 100th day maybe which is really good for early access and for game that was just announced. And we had at the time we wanted to publish the game. First time it was 2024. We had 80,000, and it was good number of pushes. Okay, let's release now. But then we had open beta, and we had 2,000 or 3,000 people playing, because again we had this community who was ready to support that and looking forward to play the game. And then after that we decided to delay because we decided to pivot more on this building blocks. And then what propelled wishlist from that point until next year were streamers, because since open beta we allowed streamers to just stream the game, and then on the curve in the backend you see clear line, it has a bump and then it's not more straight, it goes up. And then prior to launch, also with all these streamers and campaigns, prior to launch, orchestrated that gave us 50,000 wishlist in a week prior to launch. So yeah, it was really important for us.
Okay, thank you guys. Thanks for sharing. And one last question, let's go.
Okay, I'm gonna be quick. For this region, when it comes to game development, it seems to be a very small region with a handful of game development studios. So for an aspiring developer or artist, 3D modeler in my case, do you guys have any advice to give, or the people that you are hiring, what are you looking for? Just maybe to help break through, to go in the right direction.
Mostly, I mean, obviously there's not much experience here in these kind of games, and we are aware of that. And also, like, as we were ramping up our own hiring in generally what we're looking for is just people who, you know, are teachable, who are good at what they do, and you know that they will pick things up and be able to kind of to learn those skills and those tool sets. Obviously, we try to maximize any kind of prior experience we can find. So if someone's been working in game dev, maybe it's mobile, but you know, we'll take that and we'll still train them up to what we need. But I think there's very few studios, definitely, and yeah, maybe Nino has something.
We're not hiring. So, yeah, what Marko said, basically, what you should do, you should follow your skills and get good at what to do. And the positions, the jobs, they should come. Just be persistent and work on yourself, and then there is people will kind of always recognize that.
All right, a big hand for Marko and Nino.